Hello again, everyone, and welcome to A Shortstop with a Shortstop. Today we're going to talk about the little things. When I was a coach at the University of Pikeville, I wanted my players to be able to do the little things. I want them to be able to base run, to do the cutoffs and relays right. I want them to understand how the bunt plays were run. We always worked on our rundowns. The infielders, I wanted them to make sure that they knew how to turn double plays, and the catchers blocking balls, and the pitchers and the infielders on the pickoff plays. And I wanted to make sure that they knew how to do all these little things. You notice I didn't talk about hitting or pitching. Those are kind of big things, but it's the small things or the little things that win games. And if your players are paying attention to the little things and they're able to do it, you're going to win more games than you lose. But let's look at the Bible a little bit and try to glean some things, some little things that Jesus talked about. And if we look in Matthew chapter 18 and verse 3, he talks about little children. And truly I say unto you, unless you are converted and become as these little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever then humbles himself as a child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever receives such a child in my name receives me. Well, if you see two little kids, maybe 8, 9 years old, get in a fight with each other and arguing a little bit, 5 minutes later, they're holding hands walking down the street. They've already forgot about it. And that's a little thing. It's easy to do for children. Sometimes it's hard to do for adults. So when we get mad at each other, unfortunately, we may stare daggers at each other for the next 50 years. But we need, what Jesus is talking about is attitude. Have the attitude to be able to forgive. And it sounds like a hard thing, but in reality it's not when you work on it. It's a little thing that we need to work on. And in Matthew chapter 17 and verse 20, and he said unto them, because of the littleness of your faith, for truly I say unto you, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to the mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. But this kind does not go up except by prayer and fasting. But Jesus says we need to have the faith of a mustard seed. Now, if you have ever seen a mustard seed, you will know that it is one of the smallest seeds that there are. And Jesus is asking us to do the little things. He wants us to have faith. And if we look at the story in 2 Kings chapter 5, talks about a man by the name of Naaman. And he had leprosy. He was a very powerful man. He had captured a little girl in a war, and she was attending to his wife. And this little girl said if he would only go and talk to this prophet, this man could cleanse him. And his wife went and told him, and he went to where he was supposed to go. But he went to the king of Israel first and took a letter. And the king of Israel was basically saying, he tore his clothes and said, I can't heal this man. But he said, send for this man for me. He said, send for Naaman. And Naaman came to Elijah's house and with his chariot and all these men with him. And Elijah didn't even come out and talk to him. He sent one of his servants out and said, go tell him to dip 7 times in the Jordan River and he'll be cleansed. But Naaman had an ego. He didn't like it. He got mad. He said, I'd rather dip in some of the rivers in my land because they're a whole lot cleaner than the Jordan. But one of his servants said, if he would have told you something great to do, would you not have done it? He said, why don't you go and do what the man said? So he went down to the Jordan River and he dipped 7 times. And after the 7th time he came up, he was cleansed of his leprosy. But how much of a little thing was that to do to be able to cleanse your leprosy? Dip 7 times in the Jordan River. It's the little things that we need to concentrate on and do as far as what Jesus wants us to do in this world. In Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30, It says, "Come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Jesus saying it's easy. I'm making it. He said, I've already done the hard work. I've already done the hard job. He went to the cross. And he's made a way for us to be able to get to heaven if we do the little things like he wants us to do. In Acts chapter 22 and verse 16, there was a man by the name of Ananias that went to a man by the name of Saul. And Saul had been persecuting Christians, and he'd been doing a lot of bad things to them. But now he had seen Jesus on the road to Damascus, and Ananias goes and tells him something. Now, before I read it, I want to ask a question. Do you think Ananias was misleading him when he said this? He said, "Why tarriest thou? Arise and be baptized and wash away thy sins, calling on the name of the Lord." Now, did Ananias mislead him, or did he tell him something very simple, very little that he had to do to have his sins washed away? I don't think he misled him. I think he told him the truth, and I think Saul got up and was baptized and later became the Apostle Paul. In Matthew chapter 7 and verse 21, Jesus says, "Not everyone that says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' is going to enter the kingdom of heaven, but those that do his will." And that's what we need to do. His will is easy, and it's the little things. And Jesus is the head coach. One last scripture that I want to read is in Matthew chapter 25. It says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. When I was in prison, you came to me." Then the righteous answered him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you something to drink? And when did we see you as a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?" And the king answered and said to them, "Truly I say unto you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did it to me." Are you able to give somebody a drink? Are you able to give somebody some food? Are you able to clothe somebody? Are you able to visit somebody in jail? Are you able to visit somebody when they're sick? Those are the little things. They're not hard to do. But Jesus wants us to do the little things. And he is the head coach. Thank you again for being with a Shortstop with a Shortstop.